you all very much. You know, I'm here today at the request of my dear friend to represent a cause close to his heart, and as he would have put it, to organize and mobilize the next generation. I'm here to recruit young leaders who are willing to tell the truth with brave clarity and conviction about who made us and why. Why every person matters, no matter their size, their age, their location, their abilities, or the circumstances of their conception. I'm here because, like you, I am a proud member of the pro-life generation. And all too recently, I've seen firsthand the cost of silence. 3 months ago, on September 10th, I was at the University of Montana, standing under a tent that said, "Prove me wrong," just like the one Charlie was sitting under at Utah Valley University at that very moment. My phone started buzzing in my back pocket, and I learned that Charlie had been shot. At that moment, I was speaking to about 150 college students who had spent the last hour trying to convince me that a preborn baby in the womb did not deserve the protection of our laws. When I told them that my friend had just been killed, the reaction stopped me cold. Some of them laughed, others cheered. One young man put his fist in the air and said, "This is war." I was shaken. But then I remembered earlier that morning, I had read a report that said that a third of college students at elite universities now believe it's acceptable to use violence to stop speakers with whom they disagree. And I realized I shouldn't have been shocked, because Gen Z grew up as the least church generation in our American history. And when a generation grows up without worshiping the God who spoke the universe into existence, the void is always filled by the God of something else. Self, an ideology, political power. And while we mourned, those students at the University of Montana celebrated on September 10th because the enemy of their God of self had been taken out. I think Pope Benedict summarized our current reality best when he wrote, "Violence is incompatible with the nature of God and the nature of the soul. Reason is God's gift, and to act contrary to reason is to act contrary to God's nature. When reason is abandoned, violence becomes the only remaining path." But for all the moral confusion and the violence that proceeds from it, I can still take heart because I know there are no number of lies that can ever withstand the power of truth. After all, our American Revolution did not begin with fighting. As John Adams wrote, it began in the hearts and the minds of the American people. It began with brave, young patriots who dared to speak a self-evident truth that all men are created equal, made in the image of our God and endowed with unalienable rights, the first of which is the right to life. Back then, to speak truth, it was considered treason. And yet, the truth had to be told. So when the enemy was advancing, they lit a light. 2 lanterns were hung in the steeple of the Old North Church in Boston, warning of a pending attack. Light wasn't their weapon. It was a defense against the danger. Those lanterns didn't cause the violence that followed, but they revealed the grim reality. And Paul Revere bravely carried the truth through the darkness of the night. And our history was forever changed because someone was willing to risk being seen. And that's exactly what Charlie Kirk did. Charlie didn't create chaos. He exposed it. To the deranged left, a man who told the truth was their ultimate threat. And that's why he was targeted. But here's what they'll never understand. Charlie's life was not taken in vain. He lived the words of Isaiah 6:8. Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, here I am, send me. Charlie spoke when others stayed silent. He stood when others sat down. And because of that courage, millions have found truth, and millions have found Christ. And today, that spirit lives on at AmFest. It lives on at Turning Point USA, and it lives on in our mission at Students for Life. Nearly 20 years ago, when I started debating and speaking and organizing on campuses, we birthed the idea of Students for Life with a simple thought. If we train the next generation to boldly speak the truth of their convictions with compassionate actions, our nation will transform. And that transformation is well underway. Today, we are proud to serve more than 1,600 active Students for Life groups in all 50 states. We've trained nearly 250,000 young people. And when Roe v. Wade fell, we were there on the steps of the Supreme Court, and we were ready. We've been mobilizing in every state capital, and we're the only pro-life group in America who can do that because of you. But we're still hard at work today. On campuses and face-to-face conversations, we change minds at least 18% of the time, and up to 20% online. Thanks to our efforts, more than 50 Christian schools, I shouldn't have to say this, but more than 50 Christian schools have cut ties with Planned Parenthood. More than 70 campuses have ended discriminatory policies against pregnant and parenting students. In our communities, over 8,000 women in crisis have been directly connected to support. And the media won't tell you this, but the tide is turning. Just this year, for the first time since Roe's reversal, pro-life identification in young people rose 11 points. Planned Parenthood, the nation's abortion Goliath, announced the closure of nearly 70 facilities. Young conservative men now say having children is the #1 marker for success in their life. For the first time, our Supreme Court has announced that states like South Carolina can defund abortion vendors with taxpayer dollars. And on July 4th, President Trump signed into law the big, beautiful bill depriving Planned Parenthood of 80% of their federal funding for the next year. He told Planned Parenthood to go fund themselves. But it was a start. It should have been forever. It took us 18 years to get that hard-won victory. 18 years since I started the first Defund Planned Parenthood rally. 18 years of conversations, millions of them, of election results, and leaders like Charlie who played crucial roles. That's why I believe when Roe was overturned, the pro-life movement entered what I call our Book of Joshua era. For more than 50 years, we wandered in the wilderness, and we finally entered that promised land when our Jericho, Roe, fell. But if you know your scripture, you know that wasn't the end of the fight. No, there are still many cities and battles we must win in order to conquer the entire promised land. Chemical abortion pills are now the leading cause of infant death in our country. These do-it-yourself abortions are 22 times more dangerous for women than the FDA told us 25 years ago. They turned our dorm rooms into abortion facilities and our sewers into cemeteries. They help abusers cover up their crimes because anyone can order chemical abortion pills. And they're shipped to your state, violating your state's pro-life laws and the federal Comstock Act. And Students for Life has proven that nearly 50 tons of medical waste, including the broken bodies and the placental tissue from over 700,000 abortions every year, enter our wastewater. And it's laced with anti-progesterone metabolites that have been known to cause pregnancy loss in livestock. Yet our FDA and RFK's HHS has so far failed to do anything about it. On Capitol Hill, we continue to fund Planned Parenthood through reckless Obamacare subsidies, and we'll be refunding the abortion Goliath in just a few months if they do not act. In our communities, most Americans do not know there is a nonviolent alternative to Planned Parenthood. In fact, there's 3,000 pregnancy resource centers and 19,000 federally funded qualified health centers that provide cheaper, more, and ethical treatment to women and families. On our campuses, young women and men in a pregnancy crisis don't know where they can go for support. Yet we know there's help available because no woman should ever think she has to choose between the life of her child and her education. In our discussions, our peers can't answer a simple question of why their life has value, why their life is worthy of protection, let alone the tiny child they can't see who may be temporarily inconvenient to them. So, this is not a moment for spectators, my friends. This is a moment that demands an organized, disciplined army. That you can tell the truth about the violence of abortion and the deeper truth that abortion tries to erase. That every human life has dignity because each of us was made in the image of our God on purpose, for a purpose. And that's exactly what Students for Life of America is building. We were able to reverse Roe because we built that infrastructure. But now we must build the army that will finish the work, getting us from the victory at Jericho completely to the entire promised land. We must win. So here is my ask of you tonight. If you are already active on a campus with Turning Point, a conservative group, awesome. We want to be your partners. We will equip you to speak the truth for free. If you are looking for a way to save lives and become a leader, amazing. We will mentor you along your journey. If you are a graduate or a community activist wondering where you fit in this fight, come talk to us, and we'll show you how to go church by church, neighbor to neighbor, to change minds. Before you leave tonight, find the Students for Life booth in the exhibit hall. It's next to ICE. Something I've never said before. Awesome. Put your name down, join a chapter, start a chapter, associate your Turning Point group, launch a campaign in your city. Sign up to be that truth bringer like Paul Revere, like Charlie Kirk. Bring the truth to a generation living in the darkness, unaware of the evil that's coming for them. Because history is always written by those who show up. So decide right now that ours is a generation that will march forward from Jericho, conquer the promised land to an America where every child is welcomed in life and protected by law, where abortion is unthinkable and unavailable, where every child has the freedom to be born. And when the Lord asks again, whom shall I send? Be ready with your answer. Here I am, Lord. Send me. Thank you.